I was renting a house in Belgium off a guy, Julien Nice, who had a chair factory, and he just said to me, why don't you go and sell chairs? Well, basically, I didn't sell a chair for 6 months. I just knocked on hundreds of doors. I didn't know anything about what wood, oak, beech, pine. I didn't have a clue. So it was really, really difficult. And I remember I'd just about given up, and we went on holiday to Spain. I'll never forget it, we were on the beach, and this newfangled mobile phone went, and a guy who I'd visited 2 months earlier said, oh, can I have 100 of those chairs that you showed me? And from that minute on, it just rolled. And I sold him 100 chairs, and then it really just went on. I was flat out doing chairs for a long time, selling chairs, yeah.
Tim Harris's post-cycling path hasn't solely been dedicated to four-legged furniture. From their home in East Flanders, Harris and his partner Jocelyn Ryan have crafted not only a successful chair business, but also a hub for their shared passion.
I'm from Norfolk originally, and ended up racing in Holland for 5 years. Joined the team out there, and then ended up being a professional for 13 seasons. And the biggest team I rode for was Festina in Spain. And then I raced for Portuguese teams and ended up forming my own team, FS Maestro, in the 90s. And probably my best achievement was I was national professional road race champion of Britain in 1989. So that was probably the biggest thing I did.
I've always been involved with cycling back in the UK, you know, cycling club, the old traditional way. I was brought up with parents that were cyclists, so I've always followed cycling, and I love to ride my bike myself, and you know, this is the best place that I know to ride a bike. So you know, that's one of the attractions for me of being here.
I was out training, and like 15 years ago or whatever, and I punctured outside this big house, and I just saw there was a little sign for sale. And I just liked it, so really I just bought it, and with the idea to go and live in it. It's just a nice house. It was characterful, so I just needed a bit doing it to make it livable. It wasn't too bad. We did new electricity and stuff like that. It's an old house from 1888, and it was originally a brewery. So yeah, it's a big, characterful old Belgium house.
A fortuitous phone call, however, would end plans to move in and create a cycling institution.
It was when the SARS epidemic happened in Asia, and every race got cancelled. We knew some Australian riders who were racing for Giant Asia team, and they phoned me up and said, oh, I need to do some racing in Belgium. They ended up coming to stay for the summer, and just word of mouth from there. Literally word of mouth and then the Great Britain national team, Rod Ellingworth, brought some riders over, and really just snowballed from that minute.
Well, I first started coming out and staying with Tim back in the 90s, actually, when I was racing. Not in these houses here, but Tim used to have a different place with FS Maestro. You know, I used to stay there and do some of the pro commesses. But I first came out here with the GB team in 2003, and then brought out the academy guys 2004 and so on, yeah. Cav being one of the guys, Matt Bramier, Ed Clancy, Stephen Burke, Johnny Bellis, Pete Kenner, Dowsett. So all that sort of group, you know, quite a lot of the guys, Ben Swift, them sort of guys are all pros now, have all been here in Belgium with me. Rather than going backwards and forwards, we'd stay here. And Jocelyn would look after them and keep coming in, making sure they were all okay, and you know, and I'd be out sort of recceing courses at the same time or whatever, and you just knew they were in safe hands.
And so a Cycling Guesthouse was born. Since then, the house has been home for a generation of talent racing abroad for the first time.
So, for example, Konica Minolta from South Africa came, and one of the riders that was on that team who stayed for a season was Chris Froome, so he's probably the most famous, really. Mark Cavendish came with the Great Britain national team. Although he was quite a chubby little lad when he first arrived, mentally he was different from everybody. Other like English riders like Lizzie Armistead and Adam Blythe and Dan McClay, James Shaw, those type of riders, we had a lot of contact with them on a day-to-day basis.
More recently, Harris and Ryan were given a special task as one of the hottest prospects in cycling arrived in Europe for the first time.
Ethics Quickstep needed to put a couple of Colombian lads here, Rodrigo Contreras and Fernando Gaviria. And for them, I mean, I spend a lot of time in Colombia and I speak good Spanish, so they sort of wanted to put them where they felt a little bit at home. But Belgium is so far removed from Colombian lifestyle that it is difficult.
I don't speak Spanish, so that was quite difficult because Fernando was a little bit closed off because he was supposed to be learning English, but he didn't try that hard. Since then, he's improved an awful lot. We noticed the last time we met him, so he must have kept up his English lessons.
We came back home, and then one day the lawn was completely mowed, and lawn's mowed. He didn't say anything, and I said, "What have you been doing?" He said, "No, I'm watching telly," but actually been out mowing the garden all afternoon.
The house's current guests are riders supported by the Dave Rayner Fund, a support network for young British riders set up in memory of one of Harris's former teammates. As for all that stay, Harris and Ryan's hospitality for the young riders extends far beyond just a roof over their heads.
We try and put them in teams, so they're all in teams or clubs, so they'll have their backing of the teams that they're in, and depending on the ability will depend on what sort of a team they're in, really. So, but you don't really know when they first come out from the juniors whether they're going to be capable of being in a big team or a small team. So they have the teams, and then the living facilities, they get all the stuff they need to live and to train and then go to the races, really.
It's just really going to see them each day, seeing how they're getting on, making sure they're all right, and you know, everything's going smoothly. And there's often a lot of questions. So,
there's a lot of things like crashes and going to hospitals, going to doctors, sorting things out because you know, it's a dangerous sport, and there can be quite a lot of incidents. And then I'll be more involved with trying to maybe find them different teams, and I'll go to quite a few races. But Joss is more busy with them on a day-to-day basis than me.
I've been coming to Belgium for 4 years, and this is my first time in this house staying, but I've been known about the house for going on, is it 15 years now? Because my dad and Tim have been mates for 40 years. Racing wise, from sort of day one, so when I came over I went on my bike to the local race with Tim, and basically just Tim told me it's going to be very hard, very difficult, and it was very hard and very difficult. The biggest things that I've learned from both Tim and Joss is learning how to take care of yourself and to be self-sufficient. So from that, you know, that really bleeds into the racing.
Obviously it's where I'm living for the year, and they helped me last year actually get onto a team. So to be honest, without them I probably wouldn't be here, like racing abroad. I don't know what I'd be doing. To be honest, the way of life is like pretty good, like getting along with it fine. It's a lot less stressful being here than at home, working and everything. But yeah, the racing is definitely a big step up. Getting used to it now, so sort of progressing every race. So it'll be good to see where I finish up in the end of the season.
So I've been to Belgium for quite a few races, sort of on and off since I was like under 16, so quite a while, but I've never actually taken the step to sort of stay out here full time. But yeah, I think it was about time I was like, oh, I'm going to have to go out to Belgium at some point, and yeah, it just seemed like the right time, really. To be honest, I think I might have had to have slept in my car if Joss hadn't like sorted me out with living here.
You know, I don't think Tim and Justin really sort of get out there and say this is what we do. I think it's word of mouth, and you know, and people's reputation sort of grows. And I think what everybody knows about Tim, he's always got good experiences and his own past experiences, and what follows and watches a lot of bike races and knows a hell of a lot. So, you know, you don't just get a house to stay in, you get real good support, and I think that's the key thing, you know.
People only ever really see the success stories, but for every success there's probably 50 who don't make it. But it's not really just about turning pro. A lot of the lads and girls, they have a good experience and they've had 2 or 3 years racing in Europe, and they learn a lot of things, and they'll go away with a really good life experience, because obviously it's a tough sport, so you're better to have tried and failed than wait until you're 40 and then turn around and think, well, I wish I'd done that.